Montage means the assembly of pieces of film, which, moved in rapid succession before the eye, create an idea.
Our brains are very good at inferring meaning where, objectively, there is none. Modern filmmakers know this well. It's a key part of the narrative of cinema. But prior to the 1910s, the grammar of film was that of continuity, the coherent flow of a sequence of shots, stitched together to create a narrative.
One scene is going on at one place, basically the firemen rushing to a fire with their horse-drawn wagons, and the other scene is the fire, miles away. You intercut the two, and you understand psychologically and emotionally that these people's lives are in danger, and these people are coming to rescue them.
Early pioneers of film realized the power of the edit, cutting a series of shots together that, alone, hold no meaning, but in sequence, tell a story. Russian film theorist, director and screenwriter Lev Kuleshov took this concept a step further.
The crazy Russians started fucking around with images, all right, and juxtaposing them and creating different emotional effects.
Following the 1917 revolution, Russian filmmakers were short of fresh film stock. Filmmakers turned their attention inwards at what had already been produced. They decided, instead of shooting film, to study it. Using old found footage, they dissected film reels, cutting them apart and stitching them together with one another. Through this process, Kuleshov demonstrated that meaning in cinema could be interpreted by an audience by connecting two deliberately chosen, yet completely unrelated shots in sequence.
They began to understand that they could get a certain emotional, psychological effect by a certain type of cutting from one image to the next. And that became a manipulation of what the audience was feeling.
Kuleshov displayed his findings in a short film, in which an expressionless man is intercut with three different shots: a bowl of soup, a girl in a coffin, and a woman. Audiences raved about the acting of the man. They described the heavy pensiveness of his mood over the forgotten soup. They were touched and moved by the deep sorrow with which he looked on the dead child, and noted the lust with which he observed the woman. Yet, his expression never changed. In fact, it was the same piece of footage used for each reaction shot. The Soviet leaders saw this innovation in cinema as a pivotal tool for the education of the masses. The newly formed USSR consisted of multitudes of countries, cultures, and languages. Huge numbers of the populace were illiterate, and the means of communication in the country were largely undeveloped. Lenin saw the power of moving images as a way to tell a story of the Soviet Union through propaganda film. He realized that he could effectively manipulate the way history was viewed by his people. Many filmmakers in the 20s and 30s were commissioned to create propaganda material for the newly created Union, with most of the focus on the revolution. One of these filmmakers being Sergei Eisenstein. Eisenstein saw editing as a much more powerful tool than simply connecting two shots, but the deliberate collision of two images could invoke emotion and deepen an audience's connectedness with the story. By placing juxtaposed images in sequence, Eisenstein realized that, much like in the Kuleshov effect, meaning could be inferred by the audience. But deeper than just good or bad, Eisenstein exploited various juxtapositions of light, dark, flatness, depth, close-up, long shot, vertical, horizontal. In his first feature film Strike, he exploited this technique to create empathy towards the socialist movements of the revolution, particularly the finale, where the workers are being driven into a field and shot en masse. The chaos of the chase is intercut with the slaughtering of a cow. While this technique may seem on the nose in contemporary cinema, these ideas were revolutionary at the time, and despite our numbness to these techniques, it's hard not to connect with the workers. With the military closing in, taking aim, and the knife going into the neck of the cow, there is an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Eisenstein manages to evoke these emotions simply through the language of cinema. Just by intercutting parallel scenes of one slaughter with another, we attach the meaning of one to the other. A cow cannot be good or evil, it is merely a harmless creature. In the case of the workers, they are cast in the same light. They are pure, not good or evil, simple creatures in pursuit of a better life. We attach morality to the killers, painting them as evil. If you were a peasant in Soviet Russia, on seeing this film, there is only one side that you can sympathize with. The revolutionaries must have been heroes. However, the turbulent nature of the Soviet Union created a disconnect between the stories in Soviet film and reality. On the 7th of November 1927, an unfinished cut of October, Eisenstein's dramatization of the 1917 revolution, was screened for the first time. The same day, he received demands from Stalin to completely eliminate Trotsky from all scenes in the film. Despite being pivotal to the success of the revolution, and leading, training, and formalizing the Red Army during the Civil War, Trotsky had been expelled from the Central Committee only a month prior. He was later exiled in 1928. Stalin thought that just like in film, people could be edited out of existence. This wasn't the only time that Eisenstein felt backlash as a filmmaker. He was under constant criticism for his experimental, avant-garde approach to editing. His clashing of imagery was seen as inappropriate and ineffectual for communicating with a mass audience. A common editing technique at the time was compilation film, which composed narratives from pre-existing found footage, mostly from archive sources. While following the same principles of Soviet montage, these films would assemble shots that were filmed by different camera operators, in different locations, and even at different times. Meaning is still inferred, and the narrative is coherent, but comparatively to Eisenstein's reliance on intellectual montage of inferred meaning through juxtaposition, compilation film creates that meaning through carefully selected shots to tell a narrative which requires little to no thought process. The stories were simple and easy to follow, and when your audience is illiterate, the difference between understanding a story and not can mean gaining or losing power. The criticism that Eisenstein faced never faded. He even went as far to publish articles of self-criticism, rescinding his impressionistic art form to promote Stalin's vision of socialist realism. Still facing backlash, Eisenstein left the Soviet Union to travel through Europe, America, and Mexico. In doing so, he spread his ideas and techniques of cinema around the world. Despite these techniques being discovered well over 100 years ago, the basic principles discovered at the turn of the 20th century still drives our perception of narrative on screen. Soviet montage is just as alive today as it was in 1917. So the next time you find yourself gripped by a film, you can thank Lenin. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it all the love that you possibly can. If you want to see more like this, I'm going to be making plenty more, so please do subscribe. If you want to see more about editing, we have a full podcast, which I'll link over there. And if you want to watch any of the films that I have used in this video, I'm going to link them down there so you can watch them for yourself. Thank you, and see you next time.